decided to not do that anymore just because it is a lot of time and effort and yeah. This year got busy. So we've been talking about bringing that back though. We really do want to lock in. I think it's super. I think those sessions weren't about, you know, branding or marketing ourselves or anything like that. It was 100 pure, 100% pure, raw, unadulterated creative session. I think it's super important to have those with people where you kind of creative jam and you don't think about anything else but creating in the moment. So I think we'll bring those back.
I hope you do, and maybe we could set something up. You can do it together because I tell you what, man, I loved it. I love being able to join in those things. Sometimes you ran those kind of late at night, so it was nice for me to be able to just chill out and watch. I think
Yeah,
it's
yeah, I agree. Those were definitely like some of the most fun I had creating art was around that time last year, and I think perspective on creating art has changed over the months, and it became more of a task and a chore as opposed to just having fun. And I think it's time to come full circle to just fucking around and having fun again.
well, yeah. I think sometimes we go through our most creative processes when we're just having a good time. I mean, because you're learning to explore and try different things. It's funny. I just had this conversation with somebody the other day, which was um, when I'm trying to just poke around and I don't really have intent, it it produces interesting things, but it's never just as creative as like if I have a specific task or something I want to accomplish, but I'm doing it because I enjoy it, right? Because it's not nobody's overwatching me telling me to do something a specific way, but it helps with my creativity to have a focus.
Yeah, totally. And it's not like a focus on, hey, we're gonna create this thing, and I'm setting out to do this. It's just like, no, we're gonna sit down and we're to whole blank slate. Nothing comes to mind. I'm not trying to accomplish anything, achieve anything. I don't have any images in my head. It's I wrote this down the other day. We spend our whole lives learning how to think so that hopefully we can teach ourselves how to unthink, and getting into that process of unthink and just doing without it's a kind of like a woo wee flow state, um where you have to kind of just like you teach yourself how things become natural so that you're really just leaning on like pure intuition and creative intuition. That's when the best work comes out, at least for me.
Well, that's true, man. It's funny because one of the things I've tried picking up was I wanted to paint more. So I spent time last year painting and painting and painting. And some of the works that I look at are the ones where I just got lost in it, that I just was in the moment, trying different things, doing different tools and knowing what I wanted because I had it in my head, but then to try and make it happen was it's a visceral process.
Hmm.
And it's in and real quick, I'm gonna go ahead and let everybody know here. I'm sure everybody here is very familiar with the work, and if not, they certainly should be because I know you use your remarkable talent at the use of stable diffusion. You've created amazing videos, your music videos that you've worked on. I'm always continually floored by everything you put out. I mean, you've got a piece. I know that I think it's somewhere on your page that was just. If I wonder if I should go there and find it. There's a piece that I love, which is there it is, the cuddle puddle. I love that. I remember when first time I'd seen it, I was like, this is fantastic. It's just so smooth. Your transitions, the work that you create is just. I feel like you must be in that rhythm every time you're working on something, though.
Absolutely not. Especially when I get in the comfy, and now comfy is working for me smoothly, and so I feel a little locked in there. But my auto 1111 just shit the bed on me, and like my FFmpeg won't stitch videos together, so I can't use deform, I can't interpolate. It's just like when we rely so heavily on technology in this space, we're destined for many days of failure and frustration when it comes to creating, but through all that, it doesn't hurt to just pick up a pen and draw and say, screw it, I'm gonna just do some physical work today. So I always keep myself active in terms of like physically drawing and painting, and I've got a huge blank canvas on my wall, 6 feet by 4 feet, for making a rug. I think I'm going to dive into that next month, so I'm excited for that as well. But it's good to just keep yourself. Yeah, I make rugs.
Okay, so do you have like the sheer okay? So when you say you make rugs, is that you're putting the fabric on, and then you have to have like I've seen people doing this with like they have shears to shear off the fabric to make it a specific height, specific. Is that literally physical rug?
Well, you gotta put the thread in,
Do that
first.
Well, yeah, so, that seems like that is amazing.
Yeah, it's something that I picked up a couple of years ago. I've always been an artist masquerading as other things, primarily, being a high tech sales marketing person, and I always was super passionate about art and drawing, and I always got in trouble in school for not paying attention and doodling instead of listening and doing my work. And my parents always told me, you'll never make money in art. You got to go do this and that, and spend your whole life doing things that other people tell you to do. And there was this underlying need always to create. And so I drew and I painted, and I suck at painting. I'll sit on a painting for like 3 or 4 years until it gets finished. But rug tufting, man, whew, what a fun experience. Like once the thread's in there, there's no like, getting some paints and going over it a million times. It's in there. You gotta finish it and move on before you start making your next piece too. So it forces you to really like, sit there and hyper focus on finishing a piece. And that becomes an issue for me a lot with art and creating, is once I get out of that creative flow state on a piece, it's really hard to go back to it and finish it. It's almost like, trying to capture raw creativity in that moment, and then it's gone. But yeah,
that's amazing. I absolutely, it's kind of mind blowing, because that whole process, that's something it's foreign to me. I can't imagine how much time, effort, commitment, and I think that's the piece of it, right? When it comes down to being able to create art, like you said, I love that you're artist masquerading as other things. I think to some degree that may be true of others too.
I think that's true of most people, right? But I think, it doesn't matter where you are in the world, especially in America, is, the schooling and education system really, it doesn't nurture creativity. I'm luckily a product of Montessori preschooling. I think those formative years, those very primitive early years, establish a lot of who you become. And so, yeah, there's definitely something to be said about how our culture doesn't really nurture creativity, and within all of us is an artist, but we just don't take the time to nurture that because we prioritize other things. So when people say, "Oh, I can't draw," well, like I can't do, how do you do that? I can't do that. It's like, well, have you tried doing that? And did you give up right away? And I think that's, what sets artists apart from the people who aren't, is that we just stuck with it.
Yeah, that's true, right? I mean, and it's from an artistic perspective, at least for me, right? From my personal experience and my creativity with art, it's so funny that now here I am at my age, and now I'm getting the kind of this rebirth for myself, that I get to, I'm moving past my career. I'm moving past towards the, I love what I do for a living. At the same time, I'm now getting to go back to the things that I truly enjoyed in life, which is to be part of the art world, right? That I can actually enjoy looking at other art now. And I have the luxury of being able to create art here and there occasionally, and focus my effort and skill set. I think that's you're right. It's really intrinsic from who we are as people, right? We want to create things. It's easier to destroy than it is to create, but creating is a hell of a lot more fun.
I
And
mean, destruction is just as creative, you know?
yeah,
Like growing up,
absolutely.
I didn't have a model car or a action figure that was totally fucked up and destroyed or smashed with a hammer. Like, and then it looked unique to me, and like there's totally this like create, consume, destroy, decay mentality in humanity. It's like, you know, a lot of people get stuck in the consume aspect of that, which is, you know, telling of our times that we live in. It's very easy to just consume, 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 but you gotta balance that with creating and actually expressing and utilizing, you know, whatever form of, whether it's art or music or, you know, a lot of people will, you know, your job can be an art, right? For me, there was an art to sales. Sales is not easy, especially when you're selling, you know, mission critical technology and software to Fortune 500 companies. Like that, there's a true art. Who wrote the Trump, The Art of the Deal? Not a great book. I don't think he wrote it, but it's still very true. Like, you know, you make what your career is as you know, an art. It is an art form, whatever you put your mind to. So
Well, I mean, even then, you could look at it how people live in their art in some degree. You know, you get talking about technology. Look, half the time, my son wants to get himself a new PC. My buddy, one of my best friend growing up, he has like three of them, but every one of them are art pieces. They're not just this device that sits on their desk, but the time and effort they've taken to build the PC they want with all these lights and liquid and this and that and this and that. That is a form of art, right? So to your
true.
point,
Yeah.
that it comes down that they're expressing themselves through a different medium that people wouldn't recognize as being art potential. That's great perspective. So
Yeah.
when you with all the stuff that you're creating, though, I mean, your stuff is always like outspoken. That's what I love about it, is that it makes people feel different things. Sometimes they're mesmerized by it. Sometimes they're a little terrified by it. Sometimes they're just right. But it's fantastic. What makes you create the things that you create from that perspective?
Um, it's part morbid curiosity and fascination with the macabre, and it's part um filling a void, needing to create something I haven't seen before. You know, there's so much replication in this world, and replication is popular. Replication of art and ideas, especially ones that are successful, you know, can make you successful. Most famous artists ripped off other artists, and so I'm just trying to like fill a void that I want to see shit that makes me feel something. And it's rare. I don't know if I've spent a life um really in the extremes. So when you're into the extremes of everything, you need more of it, and you need the most intense of it, and that's, you know, what barely scratches the surface of getting me the dopamine that's necessary on a day-to-day basis. So I don't know, it's part that, and just, you know, being a unique individual.
Yeah, I tell you, it's fantastic. I just love the way you express yourself though in the works, because it's like, yeah, I couldn't believe I picked up Demons in the Whiskey Bottle. When I saw that, I was like, what? How
Yeah,
is
that
this
was a
still
steal,
here?
man.
That was a tear. Are you kidding me? Yeah, I feel like I should have looked out for the cops or something. It was crazy. I was like, what a deal. This thing is, but the thing is that when I watched it, first time watching it, I was going through and like, okay, well, I felt one thing. Then I watched it a second time and a third, and every time I'm like, okay, I mean, I'm evolving with the work. So it was just I think your work does a lot of that. That it takes more than one look at, and you can find different things about it that just make you appreciate what's trying to be expressed, right? The whether that's a form of comfort or discomfort or an expression of times that we're living, or I mean, it's just amazing. So yeah, I'm a huge fan of your work.
Appreciate that. Yeah, I've always been more comfortable feeling discomfort. So I like to spread that around. I like to make people feel uncomfortable. Um, half of the time it's just, to get my kicks, to get my rocks off. The other half of the time I like truly want people to think and consider and feel. And yeah, that whiskey, the demons in the whiskey bottle is like, that was created during one of those live Twitch stream creative sessions. It just kind of formed, and there's that surface level of, oh, it's just a cool, crazy, weird thing, and it's, whoa, wow, it's intense, and then there's a true message behind it, and the struggle with alcohol addiction, and something that I think is very present in today's society as well. And like, a lot of my work has a lot of deeper meaning to me. A lot of the times I share it, a lot of the times I don't. But there is a much deeper meaning to everything I do. And I find that meaning. I don't go searching for that meaning when I create art. I find that meaning after creating it. It's almost a process. The process that I take when creating art is a stream of consciousness. I like to let things unfold raw and organically, and then I interpret it afterwards. And I think that's how most art should be created. That makes you feel something. So that's what I try to do.
Well, it's kind of like and I don't know if it's true or not, but I'm sure you've probably heard this saying, what was it, Michelangelo? Again, don't know if it's true or not, but I've heard Michelangelo has said that the figure was always in the stone. He just had to get it out. And that's kind of the same creativity process, is that you have something, and if you get it out, you just didn't know what it was until it showed up.
Exactly. I'm going through the same process as the viewer when you view that work and you see it, and you kind of change your perspective each time you view it. I go through the same process as I'm creating it, and when it's done, that there's a transcendence that occurs through creating it, and it allows me to look inward, reflect, feel things that maybe are stuck inside, bottled up, and then kind of let them out.
PJ, I don't know if you know you're muted or not.
I did not know I muted. See, I'm sitting there. I must have had it unmuted the first time. Yeah. So I was just going to say, so when you're looking at all the different tools that you use, though, to create your art, which ones are you going to right now? I mean, because you do have the experience, obviously, with Stable Diffusion, the 1111, Deform, you have all kinds of stuff. What ones are you using now, and what's making you choose those?
I mean, I keep Stable Diffusion purist in my bio because it's the truth and the reality. I don't break from really creating with other tools besides Stable Diffusion. So whether that be Auto 1111 or Comfy, I'm spending majority of my time trying to master that. I think that I'm barely skimming. I feel that I personally I've barely skimmed the surface of what Stable Diffusion has to offer, and I think that we'll be spending, as long as we're allowed to create with AI in the next 5 to 10 years, and we don't live in some weird, whatever type of society that disallows that, or whatever, or we don't have electricity to fund a computer to create the art on it. Like I will always be trying to master Stable Diffusion, because there's new creative techniques, not weekly or daily, like hourly, there's a new thing coming out. So I'm spending a lot of time right now in Animate Diff. I'm still every week I'm mastering my upscale processes, changing it. There's 100 new models every week. So figuring out combinations of models to utilize. I'm utilizing like 5 or 6 different models each time I go and sit down the prompt to create. And yeah, I don't really break out of that bubble much.
Well, see, that's another reason that I'm gonna recommend bring back your Twitch spaces. That would be just it's always been fantastic to watch and participate in.
Definitely.
So if I can, I'd like to ask you real quick then about your videos. You know, the working on music videos.
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to hear how in the world did that ever evolve? How did you do that?
It's pretty funny. My whole journey started with that. My personal art journey started with the whole music video thing. Like late in middle school, early high school, when I first started like drawing a lot, and I'd always draw that just to get through whatever I was, tasked to do. It would be the draw, but I started making, longboarding music videos on YouTube in like 2007 to 2013. I grew up in the Santa Cruz Mountains, above Santa Cruz, California, and I had a big old, 6-foot longboard, and I'd speedboard, and I, had video cameras, and I lived way up in the mountains, and all my friends would, I'd I'd smoke them out, and they'd drive me up the hill, and I'd bomb it, and then they'd pick me up at the bottom, and I'd drive, they'd drive me up to all. I had like 10 or so different spots we would go to, and I'd film that and put music to, and I think it all started there, but it truly started with the AI stuff last year. This time last year, Black is my first open call that I actually got selected for after like 100 open calls throughout the year prior.
You know how that is.
I totally, man. I mean, that's the name of the game. You grind until you get noticed. Took me a year to get on anyone's radar, and it was discouraging. But I found Deforum when it first came out. It was on Replicate, and then I finally got a computer, set it up locally, and couldn't get Deforum to really work the way I wanted to with the 3D parameters. And like end of April last year, I did a music video for the Black thing, got selected, and then had that piece shown. And then it didn't actually get shown at NFT New York. It was like through some like technicality thing, like it didn't actually happen. And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. First foray into the art world, and like just knowing that like it's just preparing for disappointment all around, but knowing that, oh, cool, like here's this secret sauce thing that I don't see anyone else doing much of. So I'm going to lean into that more. And I joined like the Stable Diffusion Discord, and they had a contest for Peter Gabriel for his music video. And I was lucky enough to get into the top 3 for that. I got second place. Peter's team commissioned me $10K for the video. And then they reached out to me to do more visuals for his concert. And it was kind of just like a snowball effect from there, in terms of being like, oh, here's this thing that I'm actually enjoying creating with a lot. It's the whole motion parameter thing was very intensive, and it scratched the itch for my OCD. Like my motion parameters that I utilize are extremely intense and very like it took 9 months for me to really like hone in my first set of motion parameters, and since then I've just been building off of that. And so it's like anything, you just kind of build off of it. And here we are, we're Actually, Peter's team just came back to me with a note that they want a bunch of changes for this upcoming video, but it is what it is. It's really cool to have that opportunity and to know that this space is giving, no name artists an opportunity to be seen. You just got to like persevere and push through all the bullshit.
Dude, and it's a brilliant work too, man. I loved it when it first came, when I first had seen it. Great stuff, and that's the type of story that I think is so important because it shows the a journey, right? From, like you said, 100 times going through, putting into all the work, time, effort, with nothing more than really a belief of what you can achieve and what's possible. And you've done it. It's awesome, man. I think it's fantastic.
I was so close to giving up that week too. I'd started Underworld with my friend Hacks, and like the week prior to all that, he was like, "Yo, I need to get a job. I need to make money. I got to put this on pause." And so he's like, take full reins. Make Underworld what you want it to be. And I was like, I don't know. I got to go get a job too. I'm a year into being an artist, and I've made no money. I'm burned through a bunch of my savings. I was interviewing for a bunch of jobs and not getting the interview. I was overqualified, underqualified, sucked at the interview. And just shit was bleak. Like I really was on the verge of just being like, screw it. This was a fun year of doing what I thought I loved. And, my parents were right. And artists are, the starving artist thing is true. And I truly believed, and I still do, I think you have to reach that point as an artist because that's when your best work comes out. And so that week I made the video for Black, for the Latent Dreams. I made that entire April collection that I'm about to release a year later. I made maybe 10,000 pieces over a 5-day period, and I've honed it down to like my entire style and vision for Underworld and creative voice was defined in that week. And then I also made the Peter Gabriel video 3 days after that. So at my lowest point, I was able to create my best work, and it carried me on through the rest of the year.
That's fantastic. That's such a great story. I'm going to tell you, there's there's times I'm like, I'll walk in the kitchen. I'm like, that's it. I'm done. I'm done doing this. It's frustrating. No, screw this. Yet somewhere inside me, I know I'm not quitting. Right. And I think that's what holds me back from doing the next level, because I'm like, I'm really not going to quit. I'm just pissed, and I know it. So whereas, one day I was out fishing, and I had been trying to learn to fly fish forever and ever and ever and ever, and I sucked at it. I couldn't catch a fish to save my life. If I were going to starve to death or catch a fish, I'd be dead. So I was like, I'm done. I told my wife, I said, I quit. I'm done. I'm going to throw all this shit out. I'm done. And she said, no, why don't you go this Saturday, relax? And so I went out there on Saturday. I thought, okay, I'll try it one more time, but I'm done. This is it. And I literally was with my dad. I said, Dad, you ready to get out of here? Let's go. And he said, well, I'm just going to cast it a couple more times. Well, I cast one more, and I caught my first fish. After that, I was never quitting. I was going to keep doing this forever. And what my best day fishing, I had 67 trout in one day. Woo. And fly fishing. So
beautiful.
But it comes down to the fact of that still that same stupid lesson of I was really legitimately going to quit. I was like, this is it. I'm done. That you realize that it's not over yet, right? So you can't quit. I know I've got to get to the point where I'm not ready to quit. I never want to get to the point where I'm ready to quit. I hate feeling that way. But you know what? You're just proof that it works, right? That as long as you don't quit, you keep trying, even one more time, one last pull of the handle, you never know what's going to happen.
Well, it's that combined with dumb luck and a couple other things, but yeah, if you're not experiencing that existential crisis as an artist on a weekly or daily basis, you should try it out.
I don't know. It gets a little too much. I mean, I have no hair already, man.
I know. But hey, it's for me, it's better than working in a corporate setting. I'd rather deal with that existential crisis as an artist every day instead of having to put put my fake happy mask on and suit up and pretend like I'm happy to be somewhere that I'm not. So I'll take those existential crises any day over a corporate lifestyle for me.
No, I totally get it. It's interesting though. I mean, it's this space really has drawn, when I say this space, I guess the time that we're living in, right? And the tools that we have and the people we can circle ourselves with is so much different. And the opportunity to surround yourself with the right people to learn from them is just so much better today than it probably ever has been, that you can find people that are like, similar. So my career has been through corporate. I have been in public service. I have been in higher education. I'm back in government. And I think I've gotten to the point though, where much like a starving artist realizes you have to either succeed or fail. One of the two is going to happen, but you got to make a decision. That's kind of where I've gone. And I've been very fortunate and lucky, but now it's a matter of how do I shift gears? How do I get back into a place I really want to be? So there's a lot to be said for the risk taking and the opportunities that were created and that you created. So, and I think that's true of everybody. It's everybody that's in here is doing that right now. So creating their own opportunities by just listening in, because you never know what conversation is going to come up and could strike a chord.
Yeah, I mean, that's what happened. I mean, when I first got into the space, April 2022, like I had Super Chief on my radar, and I was like, dude, like that's the pinnacle of success. I need, they got the first dark art show I'd seen, and I was like, it took me a year and a half to get on their radar. It was like a lot of failure, a lot of entering their contests, and then I think I'd given up submitting work to them for a while, and then I joined a space, and it was for some cyberpunk stuff. And I was like, oh, that's cool. That's a lane that I enjoy. Maybe I'll create something. And instead of it's funny that the space works this way. When you put a bunch into the work and you never get seen or recognized for it, and then you just wing it on something, and that's when you get recognized for it. That's just like, I don't know why that always happens, but I'm trying to lean into that more. But that's kind of what happened with the whole Super Chief thing. And yeah, there is a fine balance between caring a lot about the work versus winging it. And again, it's that happy middle ground of unthink, of the woo-wee, woo-way flow state, of caring versus not caring about the piece. And I don't know how to describe it other than that. It's been something that I've been trying to figure out more and more, because I see it a lot more in this space. A lot of people put a lot of effort into something and don't get recognized for it. And then you put out a test clip that you made in 5 minutes, and people get all crazy about it. That happened with me with Daily. I'd been sharing some work and whatever, not getting recognized for it. And then I put out a test clip, and Alejandro reaches out and goes, hey, can you mint this masterpiece on Daily? I'm like, masterpiece? Yeah, I didn't even, this took me 5 seconds to make as a test clip. What do you mean masterpiece? So it made me kind of re-question everything in the space kind of at that point. I was like, nah, I'll pass on minting there, but thanks for recognizing the masterpiece. Kind of got jaded, but it is what it is.
No, I totally get that. It's so funny because I equate that to I call that my B-side problem, right? That's where I think of the Beatles. The Beatles have the song "I Am the Walrus." That was a B-side. Nobody wanted to put that as a big title. That wasn't a big deal, right? "Love Me Do" was one that was an A-side, but their B-side was "P.S. I Love You." Okay, well, the point is that sometimes what they think was not as great as something else that they've created, it's amazing how people will be drawn to that B-side item. They're like, oh man, this is great. And you're like, well, I really is there something that's built into the texture of an audio or a visual stimulant that shows there was just too much care put into this. This is overly defined, and I wanted it a little less perfect.
Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it. I think perception of art and what we create versus how people perceive it is another thing that I've been considering a lot. And I think it's made me realize is that whatever I create, I need to put it out there because it's going to reach somebody, right? And then it's just putting out everything that you create, no matter what, and embracing those test clips, and if it resonates with someone over the piece that you put a bunch of hours in that doesn't resonate with like that all those pieces still resonate with someone, and if it touches one person and it inspires them to create something, it's done its job.
Yeah, very true. That is absolutely very true. Man, I can't tell you how much I really appreciate you taking the time to jump in here, and I promise you to keep to an hour. But we've been about 40 minutes, and I love the fact that we've had people that have jumped up here. You know, Bonnie, thanks for joining. Diego, thanks for being here. Glencora, Farah, can you believe Farah joined us? Man, you're the best, Farah.
Farah, Zin, the homie Zin, Diego.
Zin is in, I was gonna say Zin is in here. Look at this. So if anybody wants to come up here and just jump in and talk for a minute, I'm more than happy. If you're okay with that, man, I'd love to have.
I'm totally cool. I got to jump in like 10 or 15, yep. But we can chat some more, and I think I'm slated to have another call with PPN in May at some point, so we can have a more deep dive session then as well. But yeah, happy to do whatever.
No, I appreciate it. I got to say also thanks to Justin for putting this together for me. I just had this thought today to try and do this. So Justin with PPN decided that, yeah, I'll get it running for you here. I'll help you get it all set up. I'll get the announcements. And I was like, thank you. I wanted to, I don't know. I feel like that there's all the spaces are always so structured, which is great because we had a chance to learn about the people there are. I just also want to make sure that we're not losing that human connectivity of people's experiences and their little stories and what makes them who they are. And I think that's important. It keeps us grounded and connected.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys chatting with me and continuing to invite me to speak. I mean, I used to do spaces more with people, and I think this year I've kind of like turtled a little bit. I've kind of just like crawled back into my shell. I think social media and the space kind of promotes that sometimes, and I think it's an ebb and flow of feeling that way. So thanks for getting me back onto a space to chat. I always enjoy speaking with people.
I love having you on here, man. And I missed the Twitch sessions too, so that kind of contributed to having to get you back out.
Well, thanks for bringing that up. Hacks and I were actually just talking about that last week. We really, 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 really appreciate the community of people that were around us during that time, and still to this day sharing art daily in our Discord, and just keeping my sanity most days, keeping me inspired. So we really want to like bring that back. It's been hard. I'm trying to juggle a bunch of projects and like putting food on my table with my art. I completely quit my nicely paying career to be a no-name artist for the last 2 years. So like putting food on my table has been critical, and it's been hard to find the time the last like 5 or so months to like, I was doing daily mints on object and like trying to keep that momentum, but like after a while it's really easy to get overwhelmed as an artist. So I'm learning that juggling act, and I'm ready to bring that back to the community, and actually starting a foundation world for the Underworld Society. So no fees for people to mint into our world. We'll be hand curating it. So if you have a piece, we'll give you critique on it, feedback, and we'll help you get it to a place where we want it curated into our world. And we're going to open the doors up to that this week. So that'll be exciting.
Well, very well. I accept. Thank you for the offer.
Yes, totally. No, it's open to everyone and anyone.
Oh man,
We just, you know, we want to, you know, a service that Black has provided over the past year for myself is the Friday feedback and critique sessions, and those were crucial. Like without that, I wouldn't be here in this space today. I owe everything pretty much to Black in that regards, to like believing in me, reaching out and helping me hone in my creative voice and like not create art for others. He taught me how to create art for myself, but to share it with others and to get that feedback. So I want to pass it along with my community and with everyone else to like share your art for the world. Let us give you feedback and critique. So for most of the artists that are around us, I don't need to critique anything. They're already, you know, banger artists, and they just need that push to keep going that Black, I think, had given to me. But also like they need a place to get their work seen. So hopefully I can spend some time this year like giving back to the people that have given me so much of their time to like feel motivated and inspired to be here every day.
I appreciate hearing that from you, because I remember well, before we adjusted clocks, I was able to attend more frequently because Arizona doesn't change clocks. So when everything rolled, it got out of a time zone that I was able to make those sessions. But my point is that I remember sitting there and listening and watching your stuff go up there and listening to critiques, listening to dialogue back and forth. And it was always fascinating. I think I've only ever thrown a couple things up there just for some critiques. But yeah, I tell you what, it's I appreciate what Black has done with that. And that's why I appreciated your Twitch spaces, right? Because even though it was very casual, but it was perfect because it was a good chance for me to observe and learn and say, wait, how did he do that? And ask the questions. And you're always so inviting. I think that's a key thing that people should recognize, right? Is when they have the opportunity to talk to other people, whether they're creatives or collectors or curators, they all have something that wants to be shared, that can be shared, that you just have to ask for. I'm a firm believer that you get what you ask for. If you don't ask for anything, you'll always get that.
You gotta ask for the deal. You gotta close the deal. You gotta ask for the order.
See, it sounds like you were a sales. So were you a salesperson in another life?
I mean, I sold millions of dollars of software over the last 10 years. Yeah. I grew up in Silicon Valley. I grew up around it. My parents were big in high tech in the 90s and 2000s, and I just had a natural knack for sales. You know, I sold plenty of other things before getting into tech sales. So, you know,
I love it.
Yeah. Silk Road was great in the early, actually the guy that got busted for Silk Road got busted at the apartments down the street from me. I used to, you know, be there all the time. Pretty crazy story, actually. If you ever want a crazy story, ask me about that.
Well, okay, then I'll put that on the agenda because that sounds like a good conversation piece. What we'll do is I'll write that down. Silk Road Apartments. Got it. Okay.
Domicilio Apartments across from Santa Clara University.
You got it, man. It's now, Farrah.
Bring it up for next time.
Here, Farrah. You can't use that. Oh, she's so fantastic. I love her. But no, that's great. So we'll I'm going to add that on there, and we'll talk about that next time I chat with you on one of these spaces.
Totally.
I love it, man. Well, thank you. Thanks for jumping in. I want to be respectful of your time. I know you've got about 10 minutes or less till you got to get out of here. But thanks. I really appreciate you jumping on today, and everybody else that's in here today. Wall plug. Good to see you jump in. And Farrah, again, thanks for being here. Glencora, Diego, Bonnie, Justin, thanks. Underworld, I really appreciate you, man.
Yeah, appreciate you guys taking the time to chat with me and listen and hang out. You know, it's nice to get out of my alone in my office unstable diffusion bubble.
No, I get it. Well, when you're ready to share something, yeah, if you need somebody to overlook and see what you're doing, let me know. I'm happy to always lend it on.
We'll kickstart that the month of May. I'll let you know for sure. We'll post about it.
All right, perfect. And I just saw Wellplug it requested, so I figured, let's see if I got him up here. I don't know if I got him up here real quick. Maybe he just wanted to say hello.
Yeah.
There he is. So just in case Wellplug wants to say hello.
Hey, how are you? Yeah, sorry about that. I was working on a piece for the what is it? Cosmo Tuesday Art Tank. So I literally just saw your like bat signal and figured I'd come say hello. I know you're closing the space, but you know, the feedback stuff sounds interesting. I'll listen to the rest in the background, but just wanted to voice like, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. So keep me in mind or abreast of what's going on with that.
Yeah, we have a Discord. I can send you the link, Wellplug, for sure. Just share art whenever, and we'll start doing these creative sessions again. And I know like people like Neil and Zin and Diego, they're always like sharing work, and we'll just kind of review it live and give like real time feedback instead of this, you know, Twitter circle jerk that we all participate in, which is, I think, all good to have positive reinforcement, but it's also good to get, you know, some real feedback on perspective from others, right? It's not, hey, our perspective is better than yours. It's, hey, this is just what we perceive as the viewer, and it gets you out of the creator state into the perceiver state. So yeah, I'll send you the link for the Discord, and feel free to share work in there, and I'll be posting about some updates for us to be streaming again soon.
Cool. Appreciate that. Thanks.
Yes, sir.
Awesome. That's fantastic. Yeah. Thanks for coming up, Wellplug. Good to hear you, man. All right. Well, with that, I guess I'll let you go because it's a couple minutes left.
Yeah, I got a meeting here. I got to prep some stuff for. So I appreciate you having me on, PJ. I'll look forward to the next chat in a couple weeks.
Sounds good, buddy. Thank you so much.
Inspiration at Pixel Palette Nation. All the mission. Find your inspiration at Pixel Palette Nation. A pixel pollination. Operation. Fiber inspiration at Pixel Palette Nation. A pixel